Okay, welcome to another episode of Pixar Movie Reviews. Today, the Pixar movie that everybody else hates, but not me, Disney and Pixar's 12th feature film and first non-Toy Story sequel, Cars 2. Yeah, this one's got a pretty bad rep in the Pixar library, but I really like it, and I'll explain why. First off, a little bit about the filmmakers. Originally, the director was going to be Brad Lewis, the producer of Ratatouille, making his directing debut on the film. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, John Lasseter, despite the fact that he had become CEO of Disney Animation and Pixar Animation right around the time of the first Cars, Lasseter came on to direct Cars 2, and Brad Lewis got demoted to co-director. Due to the fact that John doesn't work at Disney or Pixar anymore, this is the last movie that he's directed, so that's 8 years without a movie directed by Lasseter. Cars 2 was released to theaters summer 2011, a little over 5 years after the first Cars. It actually did really well at the box office. Matter of fact, it did better at the worldwide box office than the original Cars did, as well as many of Pixar's other films, WALL-E and Pixar's first 4 films from Toy Story to Monsters Incorporated. But, in terms of those first 12 Pixar movies, with Cars 2 being the 12th one, that means Cars 2 only barely ranks in the top half in terms of worldwide box office reception, as it's still below Finding Nemo, Toy Story 3, Brad Bird's films, The Incredibles and Ratatouille, and Up. Despite its success at the box office, again, better than other Pixar films, but still lower than some as well, Cars 2 unfortunately holds the record of being Pixar's worst reviewed movie. It's the only Pixar movie so far with a rotten certification on the Rotten Tomatoes site, only 39%, which is pretty disappointing to say the least. It's also the first Pixar movie not to get nominated for any Oscars. It did get nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Animated Feature, which had been won by Pixar the last 5 years in a row, from the original Cars to Toy Story 3. But Cars 2 is the first Pixar movie since the Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature was announced. Cars 2 is the first Pixar movie to lose that award. The winner that year was Paramount and Columbia Pictures' stop-motion animated film, The Adventures of Tintin, which, ironically enough, is the only Best Animated Feature Golden Globe winner to not be nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards. A lot of people really don't like Cars 2 and feel like the idea of Mater being the protagonist and switching it from a small-town drama/racing film to a spy thriller film is probably one of the worst choices Pixar has ever made in terms of their movies. But I actually think this one is better than the original Cars because it takes a different approach than the first one did. So here's the story of Cars 2. I'll just go briefly over this one. Lightning McQueen is a 4-time Piston Cup champion racer in the years that have passed since the original Cars, and is still voiced by Owen Wilson. After his latest win, he heads back to Radiator Springs for time with his friends, including Mater the tow truck, still voiced by Larry the Cable Guy. During dinner with his girlfriend Sally, once again Pixar star Bonnie Hunt, McQueen hears about the World Grand Prix on TV, a race that Sir Miles Axelrod, a former oil tycoon voiced by Eddie Izzard, is organizing to show off his new fuel, All in All. Mater gets McQueen into the race, and off they go to Tokyo, Japan, Porto Corsa, Italy, and London, England. Those are the countries where the World Grand Prix is taking place. But then, Mater gets caught up in a case of mistaken identity and joins British secret agents Finn McMissile, voiced by Michael Caine, and Holly Shiftwell, voiced by Emily Mortimer, on a mission to stop an evil plot to sabotage the World Grand Prix and its racers. So the film follows the dual plots as Mater gets mistaken for a secret agent and helps stop the bad guys, and his friendship with McQueen is tested along the way. I'll start with the good stuff. A lot of people who have dismissed Cars 2 as Pixar's worst movie probably have never even seen it. They just read the reviews and shrugged it off. But having watched Cars 2, I do think there are some good elements to enjoy. First off, they keep McQueen and Mater's friendship a key part of the story, which is good. I really think that friendship works. Not as good as the Woody and Buzz relationship, but you can tell that McQueen and Mater are the best of friends, and this adventure tests their friendship along the way. I also rather like the spy plots. If you think about it, there really aren't that many kid-friendly spy movies, like, James Bond or something. Only older kids can watch those. This gives kids a spy film that they can watch and enjoy without it being too scary. They do use guns and there's explosions and stuff, but it's played down to be kid-friendly. I also like that they go to different places in this film. For the most part, the original Cars was set in Radiator Springs, with the beginning and end with the races set at different tracks. Here, they go all over the place. And it's places overseas, so that adds to the fun of it. Now, I do understand this movie has some problems. Mater becoming the protagonist, that was a trap that Disney fell into a lot on their direct-to-video sequels, where not necessarily would they upgrade a supporting character to be the main protagonist in the direct-to-video sequels, but a lot of times they focused on someone else. Usually in direct-to-video films like Lion King 2 or Little Mermaid 2, it was the offspring of the main protagonist of the first movie, and it usually doesn't work so good. And that's the problem that people had with Mater, that he's a lovable goofball, but they think he works better as a supporting character than the main protagonist. It's the same problem people later had with the Minions in Despicable Me. They were good as supporting characters in the Despicable Me films, but they didn't like that the Minions got their own movie in 2015. And now we're getting a sequel next year, which is going to be even more of a problem. Also, the film is rated G, like most of Pixar's other movies, except The Incredibles and Up. Those are rated PG for their action sequences. Both Toy Story 3 and Cars 2 were criticized for their G ratings. Toy Story 3 because it was too scary in parts, particularly the incinerator climax. And Cars 2 for, again, all the spy elements. While I totally understand why people have problems with this movie, I think the 39% on Rotten Tomatoes is maybe a little too much. If it was me, I would have put Cars 2 in the 60s, maybe 70s percentile range. So I'd put it up there with the other Cars films. Well, I understand it's not for everyone, but for me, Cars 2, even though it's still pretty low, currently it's at number 12 on my Pixar movie ranking list, which puts it 10th from the bottom, right below the original Toy Story in the middle of the pack. I think you should give Cars 2 a couple of watches before you decide if you like it or not. Let me know what you think of Cars 2. Thanks so much. I'm Josiah Milky. Thanks for watching.